Hey folks, this is Drew from Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective here. I want to thank you for hitting the download button on this episode. Episode 79 is going to go into in-depth detail on my thoughts on Doom Eternal for the Xbox One. And just a warning here, spoilers will occur during the entirety of this review. We had originally recorded this with the intention of having it be a part of episode 78. However, my thoughts on this game went far longer than I think both Will and I anticipated it would. So we decided to splinter it off into its own episode so you can enjoy it on your own terms. We really hope that you enjoy this review of Doom Eternal. And we hope to hear from you and see what you guys agree with, disagree with, how you feel about it, if I'm right, if I'm wrong, everything. Let us know. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at WDGRPodcast. Our website's WDGRPodcast.com, and you can email us at WDGRPodcast.com as well. And if you do, let us know how you feel about it. Next episode that we record, we'll read those letters on the air and discuss them a little bit more in depth and see where things go. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think of the episode. It was a very cathartic moment for me to finally sit down and talk about a game that I've been looking forward to for so long and have very strong feelings about. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Well, I guess that kind of brings us to our last topic for the night, huh?
It does.
Now that we've talked almost an hour, we're diving into the heavy hitter of the show.
I am pumped.
Yeah, Doom Eternal. Final thoughts.
I mean,
where do I begin?
I would say this would be a long time coming, but I don't know if it really is. I mean, it's not been out for that long, but...
So the game came out the last week of March.
Okay.
And I beat it, I can tell you when I beat it, because I wrote that down. Also, if you're looking to pick up a new hobby, bullet journaling is great. Hit me up on Discord about that, too. Let's see here. I beat Doom Eternal on May 6th. Okay. So, about 20 days ago, roughly. Uh-huh. And I feel like I have a very complicated relationship with this game. It is... When Doom Eternal is good, it is excellent. I mean, 10 out of 10, just knocks it out of the park. You feel like the most badass motherfucker or the most clever motherfucker for finding all these secret items, and it's immersive and wonderful and just an incredible experience. But when it is bad, it is throw your controller through the fucking television and then punch it. Frustrating.
Damn.
And it is this dual dynamic of love and hate that I have come to associate with Doom Eternal.
Okay.
So I wrote 7 pages of notes.
I'm excited for this.
And like I've been preparing for this discussion for 3 weeks. When I beat the game, I beat it at the end of a marathon of playing for the entire day. I was like, I drew the line in the sand. I'm like, to quote Jean-Luc Picard, the line must be drawn here, no further. And I just, that's all I did. I'm like, honey, I'm beating this game today. Don't bother me.
Yeah, I'm plowing through this.
And she stayed in, well, she had work, so she worked. And then when she was done working, she left me alone until I was done. And I love her. She's a wonderful person. Never have I been more relieved to beat a game. And it was not because by that point I was enjoying myself, because I was so frustrated with the game and what it had become that I wanted to beat it because this is something that I needed to do so that I could wipe the slate clean and move on. But getting to that point was an absolutely incredible experience most of the way. So the too long didn't read version of this is good game with exceptions, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And I just want to state for the record that I am going to be going into spoilers here. Okay. So if anybody has not finished the game and they do not want to hear spoilers, I apologize. You may want to tune out of the podcast because I want to talk about this freely without fear of what I'm going to ruin or what I'm not going to ruin.
Fair.
Where should we start?
Why don't we start with... Well, first of all, I mean, you were really pumped to play this game. Doom 2016 was a huge success. Oh, damn it. I mean that seriously, but damn it. Joe is gonna... I'm thinking of that GIF right now, dude. I'm thinking of the GIF right now. I'm getting tossed into a shark next week. This week, actually. Damn. Look, it was a very successful game. All right. You were a huge fan of it. You've been a huge fan of Doom. Walking into this, why don't you start with, tell me about, how this game was kind of booting up and just kind of starting.
Yeah, well, I'll kind of rewind it back just a little further than that, I think. Because when I was not expecting there to be a sequel to Doom 2016. I was content with what they had given us. It was a complete game from beginning to end. It satisfied every craving I had for the Doom franchise up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So when they announced that they were doing a sequel, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, maybe this isn't going to be great. And then they showed some videos with some of the new dynamics that they added into the game, because the game introduces a couple platforming elements that weren't present in Doom 2016. One of them is the ability to dash and dash jump into walls, which allows you to traverse large areas, either on the ground or in the air. And the other one was the introduction of a weapon called the meat hook, which essentially is a grappling hook in reverse. Whereas you're not throwing a grappling hook, catching a demon and bringing it towards you. You're taking the grappling hook, piercing the demon's skull, and zooming in towards him. Like the demon is the one that's pulling you in, which is, it was kind of weird because it was the first time the Doom franchise had ever done anything like that. And I saw these videos of it and I was like, all right, this looks kind of cool, but how is this actually going to pan out?
Sure.
And I was very skeptical. And then as I started to see more and more videos get released, and, this kind of coincides with the delay of the game in December, it became apparent to me that they were really onto something special with the meat hook and with the platforming. And that holds true for the entire game. So when my skepticism of that erased, I was so excited to put this disc in and just start playing. And, I'm willing to admit that, maybe I'm not the best gamer, when it comes to difficulty. Like I'm good-ish, I guess. I'm a weekend warrior now.
Yeah.
I don't have the time to constantly focus on getting better and better at games.
Yes.
So I was able to play Doom 2016 on Hurt Me Plenty with no issues, and Ultraviolent, which is the second from the top as far as difficulty, with some difficulty, but it wasn't like game-breakingly bad, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? Everybody always talks about how Ultraviolence is going to be the best way to play this game. So the first time I booted it up, it tells you right off the bat, hey, you could choose your difficulty now, but you could change it in the middle of the game if you find that it's not working out for you, and it won't penalize you. I'm like, all right. Load up the game. I set it on Ultraviolence, and I couldn't make it out of the first fucking room.
Wow.
Really, really difficult. Now, they don't start you out with a pistol. They start you out with a shotgun right off the bat, so the game is already different from the get-go. But just the difficulty of the enemies so early on, like, I was kind of struggling with it a little bit. Now, I've been playing Doom since I was a little kid, and yes, I know it's not, Doom 1993, but I feel like I should have been able to do better on that difficulty than I was.
Yes.
I struggled for a while. I spent maybe 2 hours trying to progress, and I was like, this isn't worth it. So I dropped it down to Hurt Me Plenty, which is like your essentially normal difficulty, right?
Okay.
And that was much more accessible to me. It was still challenging. I was still dying, but I wasn't getting frustrated by the game at that point. And that was the difficulty that I played about half to 2/3 of the game I played on that difficulty, I would say.
All right.
When you boot it up for the first time, it's Doom, man. Like, Doom is like so identifiable in its tone and the way it just sounds and feels. Like, there isn't a game that feels like it. There isn't a game that plays like it. There isn't a game that sounds like it. And I can't really explain that unless you've played it yourself.
Well, I feel like it's very balls to the wall, like
it is
right off the jump.
Yeah, I mean, it's an action movie come to life, right? It's supposed to be stupid, and it's supposed to be bombastic, and it's supposed to be ridiculous, and it's supposed to be loud and intense and an adrenaline rush, and it is all those things from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that can be good. I mean, it's certainly what makes Doom Doom.
Yeah, and initially, that was something that I was really enjoying, right? The story of the game doesn't fucking matter. The story in Doom has never mattered, right? If you come to Doom looking for a quality story, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
And Doom does its best work when the story is paper thin. There's aliens from hell on Mars. Go kill them. Like, what more do you need, right? Honestly, yeah. What more do you need? Excuse me. So I feel like they really overcomplicated the story in this game.
So, I mean, that story still stands, though, right? It's still like demons, go kill them, Mars.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, storyline-wise, is a direct sequel to 2016 Doom. So you're, like, coming right out of it. It's supposed to be, like, 2 or 3 years afterwards. And there's some characters that are recurring that you encounter. So basically, Doom Eternal set, 2 years after Doom 2016, and it's the year 2151. And I'm actually referring to a game guide to refresh my memory, because once we start getting into names of things, it gets fucking stupid, right? So Union Aerospace Corporation is like the big bad corporation that has been in Doom since the very beginning of Doom, right? Since back in 1993. They're the ones that are responsible for bringing these hell demons to Earth, right?
Okay.
Well, in this game, those demons have actually overrun Earth, and they've killed almost the entire population. Everybody else that lived has fled the planet. Doomslayer comes in and, he basically puts a stop to the invasion, and he kills the 3 priests of hell and their leader in order to save humanity. The priests of hell have the fucking dumbest names I've ever heard in a game. I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce this right. Deeg Ranak, Deeg Nilox, Deeg Grav, and their leader, Khan Maker, Maykr, right?
Wow.
Where do they come up with this shit?
No idea.
I really don't know. Like, what language is this? I mean, I don't read, like, demonic books. Is this, like, out of, like, some kind of Cthulhu shit? I don't know. I really don't know.
Cthulhu.
Anyway, so according to this GameRant.com /Doom-Eternal-Ending Explained, before controlling demons and trying to take over the Earth, Khan Maker and her priests were leaders to a divine race known as the Makers, which live in a technologically advanced alien city called Urdak, located in its own dimension separate from reality. The Maker are worshipped by the Argenta, a warrior race that caught the attention of the Maker for their combat prowess, spreading their word from world to world in exchange for technology and knowledge. You still with me?
Yeah, as much as I can be.
Yeah, so when this story started evolving, I got to be honest with you, man. I just fucking checked out. I don't give a shit. I don't care who just tell me who to kill.
Yeah,
and I'm going to kill them. That's how I play Doom. Right?
Yeah,
I don't give 2 fucks about this. It ends up becoming a backstory for how the Doomslayer came to be, which I admit is a little bit cool. But again, it's very convoluted in how they get there, and how they made this human being. Or, well, I guess he was part alien. I don't fucking know. But they enhanced him, made him superhuman, gave him strength and speed, and now he's the Doomslayer, right? And they did this whole like cutscene later on in the game where like he's in this like battle arena and he's just fighting demon after demon. It's kind of like in Thor Ragnarok when Thor's in the arena and he's fighting everybody and then all of a sudden he has to fight Hulk.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that part but without the comedy. And Doomslayer's like he's all exhausted and he's like rip and tear.
Oh Jesus.
Rip.
Sounds like Batman.
Yeah, totally. So like, you know, this game knows what it is. It wears that silly stupidness on its sleeve like a badge of fucking honor. And that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But don't ask me to invest any amount of brain cells into the story. Because the story just is, it doesn't make sense.
Now, do you think that they intentionally made it kind of silly and sort of nonsensical? Or do you think they actually tried and just failed?
I want to say 50-50.
Okay.
You know, I think they were intentionally trying to be kind of silly, but then when they realized that they had an opportunity to try to establish a backstory for this guy, they kind of went all in on it.
Yep.
You know, and I don't think it's a story that really anybody has wanted.
It doesn't sound it.
I've never heard one person ever say, gee, I wonder where the Doomslayer came from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think everybody's just known him to just be this, you know, meathead with the cool helmet, and he just literally is a demon slayer, and that's all that matters with cool guns, and can run really fast.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sums it up. So, honestly, I would say, like, if you're interested in learning about where the Doomslayer came from and learning about the storyline on Doom Eternal, you're better off asking somebody else. Not that I'm trying to be like intentionally a dick about it, but it just wasn't something that I focused on because it didn't matter. You know, does that make sense?
It does, and I'm about to say, like, I guess the story element to this review, I guess, is sort of just irrelevant, and maybe that's not really such a bad thing.
It really is. You know, like I was researching to kind of refresh my memory about the story, and I was reading this article, and I'm just like, none of this makes any like a sense to me because it's so convoluted, and all these just awkward names really don't help.
No, certainly not. I mean, is it Tag? What's his name again? Tag, the Doom guy's name?
Well, that's never been established as full canon, but if we're going by the Doom novels, Flynn Taggart.
That's right.
You know, Flynn Taggart is not the Doom guy or Doom Slayer, as far as I'm concerned.
Fair enough.
They're two completely different characters. And actually, there is a nice little Easter egg to the Doom novels within Doom Eternal, which I'll kind of get into a little bit later on.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? I mean, it sounds like the story's out of the way. Tell me about the juicy part here. Tell me about the gameplay.
So the gameplay is really kind of a this is divisive for me because there are elements of the gameplay that are stellar, right? The battle loop that you're in is fast, it's furious, you're constantly moving. The game feels very responsive, right? Your goal in Doom is to kill everything, right? And get to the next stage and wash, rinse, repeat. And along the way, you are able to kind of find a lot of secrets that you can use to upgrade your character. There's a lot of RPG elements in this game as far as, your abilities, your resistance to damage, your weapons, and how they upgrade and things of that nature. The game really does kind of take into account that mantra of you're not trapped with the demons are trapped with you.
Okay.
But because this game plays so much faster, I think, and smoother than Doom 2016, they have a tendency to throw more enemies at you, and the enemies are very aggressive about chasing you. So I feel like you're constantly moving, but you're constantly running away and towards enemies at the same time. Like you may be like kind of pulling back from one enemy, but there's 5 more in front of you. So you're attacking those guys aggressively while you're getting the hell away from the bigger one that's chasing you from behind. You kind of reposition yourself, come back in and attack. The the game is just constantly attack, move, attack, move, attack, move while attacking, attack while moving. You know, and it's full 3D, so it's not just on one level playing field. You're often fighting in these large arenas that have platforms above, platforms below, jump pads and teleporters that'll move you around the arena. And the gameplay in a lot of ways reminds me of Quake 3 Arena, where you're constantly bouncing around, attacking people, trying to reposition yourself, getting a better line of fire, things of that nature. It's a resource management game while it's a first-person shooter at the same time.
Not to interrupt, but would you say that your sort of Twitch responses really were kicked into high gear with this? Because it sounds like you'd have to play that way.
Twitch response is a big part of it. Now, I was playing on the Xbox One, so there's going to be a little bit of forgiveness with the controller. I think people that are playing on the mouse and keyboard on a PC, I think that Twitch response is probably going to be a little bit more precise, a little bit more accurate, you know, because you have the mouse and you can jack up the sensitivity.
Yep.
But for me, you know, you're constantly trying to micromanage which enemy's in front of you and which one you're shooting with what gun.
Okay.
And there's a number of guns that have different ammo, different strengths, different weaknesses. Certain enemies are more receptive to damage from, say, a plasma rifle versus a shotgun. And there's different ways to damage the enemies as well, too. You know, you have different types of ammo for almost every gun. So, like, you have two shotguns in the game. You have a regular shotgun and a double-barrel shotgun. They both use shotgun shells, but one of them uses them twice as fast. On the flip side, there's this massive chain gun that you have, or you can use, I can't remember the name of the gun. It's like an auto rifle, basically. And that uses the same type of ammo. And they use them at different rates, and they cause different types of damage. And they have, you know, each gun has like a primary and a secondary variation of like an alternate fire that you can do.
Okay.
So, like, for example, with the regular shotgun, and the alternate fire still uses the same type of ammo, by the way. So the alternate shotgun has like a sticky grenade that you can fire at enemies and it will blow up. And it uses shotgun shells for some reason. I don't understand why, but at least they simplified it so you don't have to think about it too much, and I'm fine with that. And then the second alternate fire for the shotgun is like basically a shotgun chain gun, where it does like rapid firing bullets, but they're shotgun shells.
Huh.
So it kind of have some gameplay choices with that, right? You as you're going through the level, you start unlocking these different upgrades, and you can apply them to your weapons, and you can kind of choose an upgrade path to unlock maybe the grenades versus the automatic fire. And then you can kind of whittle down further into that and specialize those further. And each gun has two alternate modes of fire for the most part. There's a couple exceptions to that. And as you're playing, you start to find out that, you know, you're spending a lot of time managing your resources, and that includes your health, your ammunition, and your armor. Health is primarily acquired by using glory kills. So when you cause enough damage to an enemy, he'll start to kind of glow a orange and then a blue and then back to orange again, to kind of, they stand in like a staggered state, and they're no longer attacking you. If you are able to get close enough to that enemy, you can press the right thumbstick in, and you'll grab that enemy and do like a final kill. And we talked about those pretty in depth on one previous episode, where I was kind of describing, you know, some of the kills where like you're literally tearing a cacodemon in half, or you know, maybe you're grabbing a explosive off the mancubus and punching it into his mouth, and then he explodes. And they're very violent. They're gorgeous to watch. You know, it's alien guts everywhere, demon guts everywhere. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. It's very satisfying. And when those enemies die, they give you health.
Okay.
And that's a good thing, because you constantly need health. You're constantly taking damage.
Yeah.
Ammunition is the type of thing that, you know, you're constantly looking for. And I had a note written down here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it, because it was kind of profound. Oh, shit.
Now that kind of stuff, does it kind of spin in the way that like, it would in Quake? So you kind of pick it up and then it replenishes again, like it respawns?
No.
It does not at all. Okay.
No. Once you pick up an item, it's gone.
Gone. Okay.
There's a perk where you can shoot barrels, and the barrels, when they explode, they'll drop ammo. But the barrels only explode twice. They'll regenerate a second time, and once you shoot them for that second time, they're gone. But yeah, like basically, I'm trying to find the exact. I had like this really clever fucking phrase. But long story short, like ammo is plenty, but you run out of ammo faster than you get it. So you kind of run into this micromanagement game of using a chainsaw, which is another form of attack. Basically, it's an insta-kill. You go up to a low-level enemy, it needs one fuel tank of chainsaw fuel, gasoline, and you cut him in half, instantly kills him, he explodes into confetti, which looks like ammo. It's ammo. Larger enemies you cannot kill with the chainsaw. You need more than one fuel tank. You need 3 fuel tanks for most of the larger enemies. So you kind of run into this balance where, like, okay, well, one fuel tank recharges on its own, but beyond one, you have to pick up fuel canisters.
Yep.
But you're constantly in need of ammo because you're constantly shooting enemies, and they're constantly spawning more and more enemies at you. You can end up in an arena fighting, like, just wave after wave after wave of enemies, and before you know it, half an hour's gone by, and you're just finishing up that arena. So these are lengthy battles, very lengthy battle sequences in some cases. So you never really have an opportunity to stock up on 3 gasoline cans so that you can use a chainsaw on a larger enemy. And it's kind of not even really worth it, honestly, because you don't get, like, bonus ammo or anything like that. Like, yeah, you'll kill them. You'll do it in one shot, and maybe the enemy will give you more ammo, but you still have a cap on how much ammo you can carry at one time. There's a capacity limit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of senseless to wait. You might as well just use it when you have it and kill the grunt that's running around and move on to the next thing, right?
So would it be safe to say that you can't just decide to use like one gun or 2 guns the entire game?
Oh, no. You're constantly changing weapons. You're constantly switching. I found myself in most situations using 2 weapons at a time, but it would constantly change which 2 weapons I was using. The shotgun was kind of like my go-to for most of it. The double barrel shotgun was like my main gun, but depending on what other enemies I would be fighting, it would tend to be either the plasma rifle or that chain gun that I was talking about before. And you can flip between them too on by using the right bumper on the Xbox controller. Or if you want to switch to a different weapon completely, you press it and hold it. Time freezes, and you can use like a weapon wheel to choose which weapon you want to pick.
Okay.
And the animation of switching is reasonably quick. There's a little bit of downtime, but you kind of have to assess the situation. So maybe I'm facing against for example, a mancubus, right? And by the way, all these enemies have weak points. So you can shoot certain parts of their body to disarm them. Like, for example, the mancubus, he's got he's the big fat dude with the rockets on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
You can shoot those rocket launchers off his arm.
Okay.
And now he's reduced to being a close range fighter only. There's certain weapons that'll do that better than others. Or the arachnotron is another example where he has like a plasma rifle that pops up on the top of his head and kind of shoots at you. You can use the shotgun sticky grenade to destroy that. So they try to force you to use as many weapons as possible, which is to your benefit anyway, because you're constantly running out of ammunition. So by the time you run out of ammo for the shotgun, you switch over to another gun, you start using that. By the time your chainsaw has regenerated, you chainsaw this dude, it gives you ammo for all the different ammo types, and now you're back in the fight with all your guns. Now, you might not have full ammo, but at least you got a few shots with that shotgun again.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I haven't talked about armor yet, but armor is also an important piece of this puzzle because it builds on top of your health. So you have a health bar, and then you have this armor bar. And when you take damage, it whittles away at your armor first, and then it goes to your health. So basically, it's like well, it's armor. It's exactly what it says it is. It prevents you from taking damage. But neither of these things regenerate. They're all acquired by a pickup of some sort. So the armor, you might find a helmet, or you might find a vest. It kind of looks like a football player's padding kind of thing. You pick those up, and they'll give you different values of armor depending on how, what item it is. And then as you take damage, that whittles down, but your health is still unaffected. So you can pick up a health pack in the meantime and boost yourself back up to your health max while your armor is still taking damage.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then you have a flamethrower that you could use. And the flamethrower is another button altogether. They call it the flame belch. Okay. The flame belch sets an enemy on fire, and while the enemy is on fire, he just kind of drops armor shards, which is kind of cool because they're giving you the tools you need to acquire ammunition from the enemies, health from the enemies, and armor from the enemies at this point, right?
Okay.
But they're all different techniques. You have the chainsaw for the armor, or excuse me, for the ammo. You have the flame belch to get you the armor. You have the glory kill to get you the ammo, or the health rather. See, I'm even confusing myself. And so you have all these different techniques to basically keep yourself constantly moving, constantly going. And the flame belch also recharges on its own. It does not need any ammunition. It's on a timer. There are perks that can reduce that timer. There are perks that can make that timer more effective, or that flame belch more effective. You set something on fire, it drops ammo. If you shoot it while it's on fire, it drops even more, not ammo, armor. It drops more armor. What else here?
This is way more convoluted than I ever imagined.
And then when you start factoring in some of the other things that are going on too, like you have grenades, and you have two types of grenades. So there's a frag grenade and a freeze grenade, and the grenades are mapped to the same button, right? You're going to use the left bumper to launch those grenades out. But to switch between them, you're using the D-pad, and I believe it was D-pad right, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And that would, it was D-pad left. That will cycle between the two grenades, and those have their own timers. And those also have their own upgrade points, which are a different type of upgrade points from the flame belch. There are so many fucking upgrades in this game. And it's not just like one point does all. You have Praetor suit upgrades, you have Sentinel batteries, you have Sentinel crystals, you have weapon points, you have mod bots, you have runes. All these different perks and abilities and skills, they have different methods of acquiring them. They do different things, and they all build towards like this element of like constantly hunting for secrets in each level. The problem is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it sounds very overwhelming. Would you say that it just seemed like too much?
Yes.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
I have never been forced to use so many buttons and so many button combinations in a game so quickly than I have with this game.
Like almost frantically.
They give you... Basically, I think what happened was, as they were building this game, they're like, okay, which buttons haven't we used yet, and what can we do with them?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Now, I suppose on a keyboard, this might be a little bit more manageable, because I'm just thinking about WASD, and you've got, Q, E, R, F, Z. You have this cluster of buttons that are kind of like all right in the same area as your left hand, and you have your right mouse button, you have your left mouse button, you have the wheel. So I feel like on a keyboard, a lot of this stuff would be more intuitive. And of course, then, with Doom, you typically map the weapons to number keys. Now, I don't know if they did that with this version of Doom or not. I can't answer that. But on the controller, this becomes a very convoluted mess. And it's easy for you to make a mistake and use the wrong thing at the wrong time. It doesn't penalize you terribly, but it is an inconvenience.
Okay. It certainly seems that way. The more you explain how this gameplay is set up and the controls and everything, it just seems, exactly what you said, convoluted. And also the devs were thinking, well, how else can we make this button maybe even do two things and not just one, two functions. Right. Sounds like a lot of frantic panicking to switch to something else and to get this and to grab that. And
like, I haven't even talked about jumping and dashing yet.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea there was even like an armor thing. You know, I thought it was just Doom guy. Here's, you know, like 18 to 20 really cool Turok like weapons. And you can jump and platform, and I thought that was going to be the extent of it, but this is way more than I ever imagined.
Doom has always had armor, so that's nothing really new, but the method of acquiring it is way different than it ever was. You know, like it used to be just pieces of ammo or basically armor on the ground. And you pick it up in shards, which is like 1 armor point. You pick up a helmet, which is like 25. Pick up a vest, which is like 50. You know, and that was it. And those things are still in the game, but by adding the flame belch in there, now you've added this new element of resource management that wasn't there before. And the flame belch is cool, but it's like just one more layer on this expansive thing, you know? It's a lot to deal with in one go. And then, like I said before, too, you have the jump, which in the Xbox is mapped to the A button. And then you have the ability to dash, which is mapped to the B button. And dashing serves a couple different purposes. First of all, it serves as a way to close the gap between you and your enemies as quickly as possible. And there's perks that you can unlock that increase how far you can dash, how fast you can dash, how quickly the dash recharges, because that recharges too. And, you know, it makes the dash more efficient. But then it also becomes part of the platforming aspect of the game, which kind of goes hand in hand with the exploration of Doom.
Okay.
Where you're constantly exploring to find secrets. And the secrets could be something simple like, you know, upgrade points for the Praetor suit or your weapons or mod bot or something of that nature. Or it could be a silly secret like a cheat code or a Doom plushie, which kind of looks like a Funko Pop, or a music track that you can listen to later on in the game.
Yeah.
And this exploration, for me, is one of the best parts of the game. Overwhelmingly, Doom, I think, nails the exploration part of the game without a doubt, because it takes these levels and just blows them open. And you could oftentimes you'll be walking around and you'll see out of the corner of your eye, literally on the screen, just a question mark just floating there, or maybe like this mod bot that you can't get to get a weapon upgrade. You know, and you're trying to figure out how to do it. And you look around the stage and you pull up your map. You're looking on the map and trying to analyze, okay, what can I do to get there? And you spend 20 minutes trying to find this fucking thing. You can't find it. So you progress on with the level, because a lot of times Doom will either bring you back through that same area again later on, or there'll be a back door to that spot that you can acquire if you just progress through the level. And they make you work for it, but they reward you for it.
Okay, well, at least there's that.
Yeah, I mean, the upgrades that you get have a meaningful impact on the game. The biggest issue is that there's just so many of them. But very few upgrades felt meaningless. I just wish there weren't, like, I wish they cut them down by, like, maybe half.
Well, that's just it. You know, what I'm hearing here is it sounds like this, you know, compared to 2016 is just more. And more, but not necessarily for the greater good. Yeah.
It's very easy to forget which perk goes to which part of the Doomslayer. Like, which perk applies to which aspect. Does a Praetor point open up a mod slot for my gun? Or does a rune open up the ability to make my frag grenades explode twice? You know, it gets very confusing very quickly to what does what.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of upgrading for the most part with, like, all right, how many points do I have? What perks can I get? Okay, I'll upgrade those. Rather than kind of planning out a path of what to upgrade next.
You know, I absolutely hate that. I hate that in games where you just have useless upgrades or things that just do minor, you know, they're just minor tweaks on stuff, and you just do it for the sake of doing it. Like, I really don't like that. I like to invest, you know, skill points or whatever it is into something that's actually going to make a difference.
Well, I went in with the mindset with this game that I was going to 100% every level. And with two exceptions, that's exactly what I did. And when I finished the game, I had enough points left over where I guess there's going to be some DLC coming down the pipe. and they're saying that there might be a new weapon with that, I've already got a head start on that with my points. They give you enough opportunities where you're never starved to get those extra upgrades. You have more than enough to get. So they don't punish you for not getting 100%. And they make it very easy for you to go back and to get that 100%. You can just jump right into a level and just go to town, and you can use the cheat codes that you've acquired in other levels to make yourself invincible or give yourself 100% ammo. And with almost all cases, with the only exception of the Slayer gates, which I'll get into in a second, you can go through the level and the cheat codes will not affect your progress. If you're using a cheat code, though, you don't have access to a Slayer gate. And a Slayer gate is a special key that is hidden in every level that unlocks essentially a super difficult arena for you to play in. And if you can beat the Slayer gate, you get some pretty nice bonuses, and you get a part that goes towards a weapon that you can get in your Fortress of Doom. And the weapon will be like equivalent of the BFG, right? It's like you build your best weapon possible. So you have to go through, you have to beat all these Slayer gates to get all the parts for your weapon so that you can make this weapon later on in the game.
Fair enough. Well, I'll tell you what, why since we're on the sort of branch of gameplay here, why don't we transition to what makes this game so difficult in terms of like define this sort of throwing the controller at the screen and then punching it. Give me a couple real quality examples of that.
So the first one that comes to mind is let's see here. I'm trying to think if I want to get into the Marauder now, or if there was a point before the Marauder where I was in this arena and I was playing on Hurt Me Plenty, and there was just so many enemies, and they were just so difficult, and they were just sending wave after wave after wave after me, and I just couldn't get the game loop down, right? And I just got so frustrated with it that I shut it off and I walked away. And this is a recurring theme with this game towards the second half of the game. I would get so frustrated that I would just shut the game off and walk away. I would change my strategy up. I would use different weapons. I would go in different directions. But I just couldn't get past certain parts. So there was a part in the game where I kind of encountered that in just a regular battle arena. Couldn't get past it. Dropped the difficulty. Still challenging, but I beat it. And then when I was done with that arena, I put the difficulty back up to Hurt Me Plenty. And I continued the game that way until I got to the Marauder. And the Marauder is a boss character that you encounter by himself at roughly the halfway point of the game. And this character is game-breaking. He is a fucking asshole. And I've never hated an enemy in a video game more than I hated this Marauder. He is the epitome of overpowered. He blocks every single attack that you make unless he's in the middle of an attack on you.
Oh, that's terrible.
So there's a tutorial that pops up when you face him for the first time, and it says if you get close to him, he's going to hit you with his axe. If you're too far away, he's going to shoot you, or he's going to launch a dog at you. There's like this ethereal ghost dog that barks and bites at you, and for some reason is hit or miss whether it actually takes damage. So the goal to beating the Marauder, according to this tutorial, is to fight him at mid-range. And only you can, when he's about to do a mid-range attack, his eyes flash green. There's a very audible sound that the game makes. It's very distinct to the Marauder. And then he comes in and he swings at you, and you can catch him. And I found that the double-barrel shotgun was the best weapon. And I think the other one was the arbalest, worked pretty well against him too. There were two guns that worked well against him. It'll stagger him. You could probably get a second hit in, and then he recovers. But the problem is like he's constantly running at you. He's got a dog that's constantly running at you. And then there's a couple enemies that are in the stage to provide cannon fodder so that you can get more ammunition. Basically, they're there for you to chainsaw. But they're still attacking you. So you're trying to play crowd control with this fucking asshole. And he's sending this fast dog after you, and you're running away from the dog. This guy's running at you, and like if you're shooting at him from a distance, he blocks it. If he gets too close, he takes a swing at you, which kills you almost immediately. But if you get too close and you try and shoot him, he blocks that too. And if you get like medium distance and you shoot him, well, he blocks that as well too. And it's like, it was just the most frustrating thing I've ever experienced. And what made this worse was that I had thought that I was already on the lowest difficulty. I forgot that I had put it back up to hurt me plenty. So I spent like 2 or 3 days trying to get past this Marauder. I would play for 20 minutes and I would get so angry that I would shut the game off and throw my controller across the room.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
It's not healthy. I've never been so frustrated with a game in my life that I've walked away from it angry. It's not who I am. It's not the person I am when I play games.
Yeah, no, it's not. Man. I mean, I've been in moments like that, but I don't know if it's ever been that bad.
Yeah, it was so frustrating. So I after a couple days, I kind of was sitting on it. I was watching a couple videos, try and beat them. Because I played this game almost entirely blind, right? I didn't look at any guides. I figured it out on my own. That's how I wanted to do it. I just couldn't wrap my mind around this guy. So I watched a couple videos, and I'm like, wait a second. I put the difficulty back up. Motherfucker. You know? So I went back in, and I changed the difficulty, and it was still challenging, but it wasn't as bad. Like, I wasn't taking as much damage, so I was able to kind of navigate through it, and I beat him. All of the boss characters that you encounter, for the most part, or the sub-boss characters, like the Marauder's a sub-boss character, and then there was this other one, the Doom Hunter, right? So those two characters, they are eventually just regular enemies. So when you face them, you're facing them exclusively by themselves in this dedicated arena. Later on down the line, I'm dealing with an arena full of enemies, and I got a fucking Marauder on my ass that I can't shoot. I can't explain how frustrating and angering that is.
Oh, I can only imagine.
When you're trying to crowd control 12 to 20 enemies that are coming at you relentlessly, and they just keep spawning and spawning, and you're killing them, you're managing them, and you turn around, and all of a sudden you have a fucking ethereal dog biting you. You're like, where the fuck did this guy come from?
Yeah.
And then, like, you have to basically kill everything in the arena before you can even attempt to try to kill the Marauder. It's almost impossible.
That sounds pretty maddening. Yeah, I hate being in situations like that where you're trying to fend off either, 3-4 enemies, and you've got that little red cursor that just constantly keeps lighting up because you're getting, like, hit from the back or whatever, and you just, like, nothing you can do about it. Right. It's crazy because, like, you're playing really hard. You're trying so hard to do what the game's asking you to do, and sometimes you just feel like there's just no other way.
Right. And like, here's the thing too, like, for the most part, like, when you're facing all these enemies at once, you're in a closed off arena where you cannot escape, right? You have a mostly circular path that you're fighting in. There's platforms for you to jump on, or rocks, or whatever the situation calls for. There's a lot of vertical movement. There's teleporters. There's, portals. There's fucking launch pads and stuff. But everything is fairly rounded off. So you have this constant escape. It's really difficult to get cornered. And then towards the second half of the game, they start putting right angles in these fucking stages. And then all of a sudden, you're surrounded by enemies. You're cornered. And you cannot get out. The only way out is to fight your way through. And when you're low on ammo, that's really difficult. When you're running backwards because you're constantly shooting at an enemy, that can be very difficult. And no matter how many guns you have, eventually you're going to run out of ammo, And I found myself getting trapped in a corner frequently in the last third of the game, getting kind of overwhelmed with just this swarm of enemies on the easiest difficulty of the game. And it just became more and more frustrating. So my play sessions kind of dwindled. Like, I would sit down, most of the time I'd play 2-3 hours. It got to the point now where, like, I was playing maybe half an hour to an hour. I would play until I got pissed off, and then I would walk away before I broke my TV. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Oh, yeah, that is a horrible cycle.
Uneasy.
That's the craziest thing about it. Normally on easy, those kind of things just completely evaporate.
Yeah. It was so frustrating, man. I'm getting like angry just thinking about it because like there's so many things that this game does well and then they fuck it up.
Mm.
And I think about all these reviewers and like how they love the game and I'm like, did they play the same shit I played or am I just that bad?
Man, I'm really torn. I haven't even played the game, but I mean, this review so far it's hard to describe. I understand why you took so many notes because, to kind of sum this up, it's like an equation.
Yeah. I mean, you're adding positives and detracting negatives constantly. Yeah. And I kind of meet more towards like, I don't even know if I can put a number on it, right? Because there's so many things that it does well. I had a note here about platforming, and like there's this one stage where you're kind of navigating to a secret area where you can get like a 1-up. Like this game is very gamified, right? It knows what it is. So like you're literally picking up 1-up power-ups that will, like, if you die while you're in the heat of battle, it will revive you where you stand immediately rather than making you kind of reload the last checkpoint. And there's one stage where you're like in a lava area and you're jumping from moving platform to moving platform. And there's literally like, it's like, it's straight out of Mario Brothers, dude. Like there's fireballs in a row attached to a swivel going around in a circle. Just like you see in Super Mario Brothers before you get to Koopa.
Of course.
It's 100% a throwback. And you're jumping, you're dashing and grabbing onto walls and climbing the walls and then jumping and double jumping to the next part. Timing between these, these spinny fire things. It was a ton of fun and it was so enjoyable to see them kind of like tip their hat to one of the greatest games ever made. And then they fuck it up with the Marauder.
Yeah, man. In a lot of ways, when you think of an area like that or a stage where something seems to be pulled right out of Mario, it makes you wonder. Did they deliberately do that because they were running out of ideas, or was it an actual throwback to Mario as like a respect thing?
I felt like it was a throwback. The whole thing felt very deliberate.
Okay.
That section was not just like a throwaway. Like it was intentional.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it. And there were a lot of things like that are very enjoyable mostly until they're not. Like, for example, there's a hub world in this game. It's called the Fortress of Doom. At the end of every stage or every other stage, you go back to your Fortress of Doom. And this is where you have access to all the secrets that you've acquired. It lets you kind of review how well you did on a stage. You could replay stages. You can check out your collectibles. There's one room. It's basically the Doom Slayer's office or bedroom or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? And by the way, the Fortress of Doom is a sprawling space station made out of like an asteroid from hell. I don't even know how to explain it. Right? You're in space. You're in orbit of Earth in this fucking thing. But it looks like a mountain. It looks like a fortress in a mountain in space. Don't know how that happened, but here we are. So, the Fortress of Doom is awesome the first few times you play it. It's massive. It's like the size of a fucking level that you play in the game, right? You have your portal that you can dive into to start the next stage. You have to kind of queue that up in the computer. This is where like story points are kind of rehashed and the computer kind of directs you to the next thing. But then you can kind of go exploring it, and there's secrets everywhere. All those music tracks that you get up from all the stages, they're posters hanging on the wall. You go up to the poster, you press play, and it plays the music throughout the entire fortress. And they've got music from Quake, they've got music from the original Dooms, they've got music from Doom 2016, they've got music from Commander Keen. They have tracks spanning their entire library. Wonderful touch. Love it. Okay? But the problem is that these things are all over the place. It's not like one wall where you just kind of go up to it and you press the button and you're like, oh, the other one's right next to it. Like, no. Like, this fortress is massive and you have to go find the fucking posters, and it's very easy to get lost in. There's a room the Doomslayer's office, I guess. Like the whole fucking thing's his office, but whatever. You go in, and he's got a wall of guitars that are actually axes. Like literal, like bludgeoning, slicing, killing things.
That's awesome.
With 7 strings attached to it, right?
Oh, of course.
And then he's got a throne, and next to the throne are all these magazines littered on the floor, and it's like, you know, Doomslayer Quarterly, and, you know, Demon Hunter Weekly, and shit like this, and it's all done by Flynn Taggart Publishing.
Oh, of course.
So there's that little nod, right? Then you have your shelf of toys, and all these are collectibles that you acquire during the game. As you get them, you put them up on the shelf. So it's like our buddy Vency with his Funko Pops. You got fucking, you know, Cacodemon Funko Pops and Marauder Funko Pops and all this shit, right? That's cool, too. And then you go down, and there's a computer there. And one of them is like this old DOS computer. And it requires a code to enter. And when you enter the code, it unlocks a playable version of the original Doom and Doom 2 on a PC within the game. That's kind of neat, right?
That is
nice
neat.
Little touch. Then you go to his actual computer desktop, and apparently the Doomslayer is fucking PC Gamer Master Race, RGB kind of thing. He's got 3 monitors. They fucking look like they're from hell. It's awesome. Ultra wide screen, glowy keyboard, the works, right?
Of course.
And all the folders on the Doomslayer's computer are hilarious. And let me see if I can find them. Let me see if I can find Doomslayer PC. Yeah, the Doomslayer's bedroom and analysis. Let's see. He's got a folder filled with pictures of chainsaws. He's got desktop wallpaper of an American town, and there's all kinds of crazy shit here too, right? It's really funny. There's like this throne. He's got like a workstation where he's like building armor. Like there's a ton of attention to detail, and it's wonderful. And then as you leave that room, there's more secrets to be found. And throughout the game, you find in hidden areas these sentinel batteries. You need 2 batteries. It'll open up this door that's otherwise locked within the Doom Fortress, and it'll, you know, give you more power-ups or even costumes. Pro tip, by the way, for listening to this for the first time, unlock the power-ups first. Fuck the costumes. Get the costumes last.
Got it.
The costumes look good, but the power-ups actually matter. But the problem is like they're not all the power-ups are together. They're grouped in like maybe there's 2 over here, there's 4 over there, and it becomes a game of remembering which ones you fucking unlocked and which ones you didn't. And I can't tell you how many times I was going around in circles in this maze trying to figure out whether or not I unlocked all of the power-ups in a certain area and not being able to get back to it because I couldn't find my way. So something that's supposed to be kind of like this, you know, this nice nod to, you know, Doom history becomes like basically an exercise in like time wasting and frustration. Like it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's cool, but it isn't needed. Just put those same game concepts behind a menu.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. What else?
Well,
I haven't talked about the final boss yet. I guess I could talk about that next.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go a different direction.
Yeah, why don't we do that, and then we'll talk about the soundtrack.
Okay, cool. I'm spending a lot more time on this than I thought I would. We could spin this off into a separate episode.
Probably could.
So the Icon of Sin is the final boss, and I guess in the storyline, in order to defeat one enemy, you basically resurrect this one, but it's like, oops, shouldn't have done that, right? He's supposed to be a throwback to the original Doom 2, which you may have heard of the Icon of Sin, or maybe you've heard of like John Romero's head being in the game. That's kind of a famous thing. But basically, the Icon of Sin in Doom 2 was a wall with a like a brain that you can attack that would just launch enemies out that would spawn everywhere. In this game, he's like an actual goat man, but gigantic, like Godzilla-sized. And you're chasing him initially around what appears to be like New York City, but it's fucking destroyed. I mean, the buildings are like, you know, barely standing. Entire walls are down, and you're jumping from building to building. using your meat hook to get there, using your jumping skills to get there, your dash to get there. And up to that point, it's a really well done stage. You run into a few situations where you have like these massive fights, but they make you like use all of your skills, and it's well done. It's really fucking cool. It was an absolute joy to play. And then you get to the boss, and fuck that guy. Fuck that guy, because the boss, the actual goat man, Godzilla, Goat Godzilla, we'll call him, he's, you know, bigger than a skyscraper.
Jesus.
He's got, so you're fighting him on a rooftop, right? And in order to cause damage to him, you have to destroy his armor. And he's got, like, basically his arms, I think his hands. So I think it's like forearms, biceps, chest, and head essentially have armor on them that you have to shoot off. And once you shoot that armor off, then he takes damage. But you can't just shoot off one piece and focus your fire on that. You have to shoot off all the pieces, and then he'll take damage anywhere you shoot him. But you have to do that multiple times. In my experience, it was 2 times. While you're doing that, he's shooting at you, and you are surrounded by nonstop enemies that keep respawning.
That sucks.
It sucks because you're again micromanaging whether you're dealing with crowd control or you're trying to take shots at this boss. One of the weapons that you have in the game, which I did not mention, is called the Crucible. It's a sword. That too also has its own button, but it's a one-hit kill, right? The Crucible does not recharge on its own. The Crucible does require ammo. You can have a maximum of 3 Crucible ammos. I don't know what to call them. And it's like an energy sword. It's that energy sword that was in all the commercials, right? You swing, it doesn't matter what you swing at. If you swing at it and you hit it, it dies, right? It does not count on the Icon of Sin because the Icon of Sin is not within melee range. You cannot hit him with the Crucible. So, in this stage, in this final stage, those Crucibles ammos keep recharging, which is great. But you're surrounded by enemies so often that it's like you don't even have enough time to like use it properly. Like you could get like 3 swings with it, but then you're surrounded by 12 other things. So you're constantly moving, you're constantly shooting, you're constantly doing this, you know, health management, this ammo management, and this armor management, while simultaneously trying to whittle down the armor on Goat Guy and cause damage. And it is, you know, I can't tell you how many times, again, stages throughout the game, very fluid, very open. This stage has a ton of right angles, and you get trapped very easily. Oh my god. I spent an hour on easy fighting this guy. And again, maybe I suck. Your mileage may vary. But holy shit, man.
Yeah, that does not sound fun.
So frustrating. And he's got multiple waves. Like it was like I think 2 waves of doing that. You take his armor off. You struggle to get his armor off while micromanaging the other waves of enemies. You finally get his armor off. You shoot him a bunch, and he's like, "Oh, see ya. I'm going to another building." He walks away. You chase him, and he's got his armor back again magically. How the fuck did that happen?
Oh my god. It just reminds me of like, I mean, I hate bosses that regenerate, like health. Anything that's similar to that sucks.
Yeah. It was man.
This is exhausting.
Yes.
Hearing about this review, I mean, granted, I've been wanting to hear about this for a while, but damn, man, I mean, this is way more layered than, like I said, I could ever imagine.
And that's kind of like where my conflict is, because like I feel like I constantly am going back and forth between telling you about something that's really fucking cool and then doubling down on the shit that pisses me off.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, I'm glad I didn't get the game, and I know that some might say, well, you know, you haven't played it to be fair and this and that, but I can just tell right now that I just don't know if I would. It's
I can't recommend it.
It's just not a good entry point for me. I think, you know, 2016 is the way to go, and that's probably going to be the end of it.
One of the guys I work with, Colby, he just finished the game recently. He played on PC. So his experience, I think, was a little different in some ways, but he had some of the same complaints that I had. And what he said to me was, if they took the meat hook and the dash and put it in Doom 2016, Doom 2016 would be the perfect game.
Okay.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because the balance in 2016 was better. The amount of different attacks and upgrades was way more streamlined. There wasn't nearly as much shit to worry about. Even the item or the resource management wasn't as bad as it is in this game. And the enemies aren't as aggressive, isn't the word. Cheap. The enemies aren't as cheap. But you have, like, the meat hook is a fantastic addition to the game. It opens up the game in a whole new way. And the dash does the same thing. And I think if you could just take those elements out, just slide them into 2016, that would be the perfect game.
Fair enough. I mean, that's not asking for much either.
No.
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, why don't we wrap it up with a soundtrack, and we can tie in, kind of what was happening with Mick Gordon as well.
Yeah, I mean, the soundtrack's great. It's more of what you've come to expect from Doom. I have not had an opportunity to listen to the soundtrack isolated from the game yet. But it is fitting. I was watching Mick Gordon kind of explain, like, how the soundtrack works in the game. And basically the tracks are dynamic. You have sections of a song where the tempo is the same, but maybe it's less intense. And then you have sections of the song where it's more intense. And the game dynamically can figure out, based on how many enemies are on the screen or what part of the level that you're in, what part of that song to kick in. And it is extremely appropriate. It adds to the intensity of the game. It adds to the emotion and the adrenaline. And I have no complaints about the music in the game whatsoever. If you like 2016, you're going to like this. It is one of the defining parts of Doom in the 2010s, in this decade. Like, I cannot imagine Doom without Mick Gordon. And that's what we're going to be getting soon, because there was an issue where Mick Gordon was asked to complete the soundtrack separately from the game to, like, remix it for, just regular music consumption. And he was unable to complete it in time. And they asked one of the lead sound engineers on the game to do the work for him. And somebody went in and found the soundtrack, and they're like, hey, this sounds kind of compressed. And they played it back in an audio editor, and sure as shit, if you look at the wavelengths, you can kind of see there's no dynamic range. Everything is just very chopped off and compressed. And that's because the sound engineer only had the samples from the video game to mix. He didn't have the original files that Mick Gordon had. So you have a soundtrack that's basically mixed by two different people. This is independent of the game. The game is 100% mixed by Mick Gordon, musically, right? But for your music consumption in the car when you're driving down the street, it's mixed by two different people. And apparently it sounds like that. And I guess, Mick was kind of passive-aggressive on Twitter about it.
Yeah.
And came out and said that he would not be working with Bethesda and ID going forward. And Marty Stratton was like, well, that's news to me. That's really sad, because we think that Mick, is an essential part of the Doom franchise. He really made the game what it is sonically. And I think a lot of people do associate him with, these games. His soundtrack for Doom has become synonymous with Doom.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. I mean, it's a big name now. A lot of people actually know who Mick Gordon is. They didn't really before, but that now even sort of, light, casual Doom fans know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of soundtrack work prior to Doom, but Doom is certainly what made his name popular.
Yeah.
So...
Well, that's good. I mean, at least the soundtrack's good. Aside from those issues, I'm glad you enjoyed it, because I know you're a big fan.
Yeah, I mean, I really would like to circle back and actually sit down with the music and just listen to it outside of the game. And and see if I can pick up on some of those things that, other people were talking about. There's dynamics are a huge part of the game. The music has these peaks and valleys, and, when it's loud, it's fucking loud, and that's how it should be. It's great when it's that way. And then when it's soft and reserved, it does take a step back. And like, he did some really amazing things for the soundtrack too. This is the guy that got like a fucking heavy metal choir and had these like all these different singers come in and sing to go along with the 7-string guitars and the djent rhythms and all this like just like awesome bludgeoning metal. And this heavy metal choir is spooky and ethereal and just guttural and amazing, and like it's awesome. It is incredible how it came out. And to have some of that stuff kind of lose its fidelity in post-production and when they're mixing the soundtrack is it just breaks my heart.
Yeah, when I read that, I think it was like a Reddit article that you shared with us.
Yeah.
It was just weird, man. It was weird to see like, devs and artists kind of passively aggressively just because it was very passive aggressive, and
they both neither of them handled that situation well.
They didn't. No, it was weird combination of like professionalism and passive aggression. Just a really weird combo to deal with. And when you read something like that, it's like you said, it's heartbreaking at times, especially for really hardcore fans, and it's also just weird because it's one of those things that you'll just never really know what happened.
Right. And we have Marty's side, we have Mick's side, and then we have the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll never know the truth. And actually, Mick Gordon really hasn't, as far as I'm aware, spoken about this issue. He said a couple things passive aggressively before Marty came out and spoke, but I haven't seen Mick address the issue since.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But yeah, I guess ultimately it just boils down to, is the soundtrack good or not? And it certainly seems like it is.
Yeah, I would say it is. And I honestly, like most people probably won't know the difference. If I played, a Mick Gordon mix track versus a, I can't remember the guy's name, but the other guy's, his mix. Most people, first of all, are going to be listening to these on MP3s with shitty headphones.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to know the difference. Now, if you're playing the vinyl on a hi-fi system, you've already got a trained ear if you're putting that kind of money into a setup.
Yeah.
So you're going to know right away.
Yeah.
But most people aren't going to know.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Some of those things are not always game breaking or relevant to the experience. It's the inside details that, are just kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to kind of peel back the curtain every now and then and kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, it's just some shit's just not for our knowledge. And I feel like Mick shouldn't have said what he said, and Marty shouldn't have felt the need to respond publicly. I understand why he did, but it doesn't make it right.
Yeah. It's also interesting how those things get leaked out into the internet, and it's not even necessarily leaked out. It's just, that's our form of communication now, even with those guys. So sometimes I mean, I've seen arguments happen with devs on Twitter. That's crazy. You would think that's something that they deal with over the phone or email, and they're doing it on like public accounts, for everybody to see. So no wonder this stuff gets out. And then sometimes it's like, dude, well, you're the one who broadcasted it all over Twitter.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then of course that just becomes a giant void.
Yeah.
Well,
oh man.
Anyway, man, that was quite the review.
I apologize for going, over an hour on the game. I appreciate your patience.
Well, look, I mean, this was a long time coming now. In retrospect, it is, because even though the game has not been out for that long, you've played it. This is one of your favorite franchises, so this meant a lot. This is not something that you just kind of, red box or GameFly and just toss back. This is a big deal.
Yeah, and it's been very cathartic talking about it, because I've had a lot of these complaints in mind for a very long time, and I've wanted to talk about them.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to talk about it in our Discord room the moment I finished, and I held on to it because I wanted to talk about it here. Well, first of all, when I beat the game, I almost went and started writing immediately, but I was so angry and so pissed off that I'm like, I need to take a step back, I need to cool down, and I need to analyze whether I'm just angry because I'm in the moment or if this is how I really feel about the game. And 3 weeks later, I put pen to paper, and I found that I still felt the same way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
So,
I'm glad you took the time to, just kind of bury those thoughts at the time and, gather them accordingly. So that way, you could kind of frame everything
and
correctly.
The funny thing is like, even though we've spent the past hour and 10 minutes talking about this game, I still feel like there's more that I can talk about and more that I can, praise and more that I can complain about. And like, we have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
We've been recording for almost over 2 hours at this point.
Yeah.
I know Lauren's probably got more cookies that you want to eat.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So I'll kind of stop there. But if anybody has opinions on this game, positive, negative, if you feel the same way, please let us know. Come on by our Discord room, drop a note in the mailbag, or send us an email, and be as articulate as you want, because I know there's a lot of people that have played this game that listen to our show, and I really want to hear what you guys are thinking. I want to talk about that. Let's have a support group. Let's kind of, air our grievances or tell each other we're fucking wrong. It doesn't matter to me, but I want people to be vocal and give feedback on their experience with Doom, positive or negative, and share it with us so that I can kind of experience that with you.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. That'll be good. It'll give you a larger audience to kind of bounce off of.
Yeah. So the email is WDGRPodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can always hit us up on our social media, WDGR Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Shoot us a DM.
Mm-hmm.
Tag us in a post. Give us one of those 15 tweets, threads, or whatever. I don't care.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Double click that subscribe button.
Write us a note on a typewriter. Mail it to us.
Yeah, but like I really want to hear what other people think.
Yeah, certainly. I'm intrigued. Actually, I want to hear other people's opinions as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, to kind of put a final nail in this, I think if you go into this game knowing what to expect, I think you may have a positive experience. I think my experience is very mixed, and if I had to put a number on this game, on a scale from 1 to 10, 6.
Okay, that sounds fair. I think that makes sense for the review.
I can't. I want to give it a 7, but I just can't justify it with the complaints.
No, I honestly think that, if I had read the review that you spoke to me, right? Like if you had it written and then at the bottom you gave it a 6, I think that would be sensible.
Yeah.
It seems to make sense for that review.
Yeah. Whew. I feel so exhausted.
I hate to say it, man, but likewise. I mean, it's just that was a lot to digest.
A lot to digest.
To digest. But I'm glad I know.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to have you play it to some degree at some point. You could do it at my house. I don't expect you to buy it. I still cannot recommend 2016 enough. I know you have a copy of that.
Yep.
Or take some time with it when you finish Final Fantasy. And, just pop it in and see what happens. If you like it, stick with it. If you don't like it, move on to something else. Life is short. But I think if you give that game a couple levels to kind of really get going, I think you're really going to dig it because it's amazing. I would give Doom 2016. I don't want to just give it a knee-jerk 10 because it's been a while since I've played it from beginning to end, but it's going to be on the higher end of that spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seems that way, but I am intrigued to play 2016. I'm sure I'll get to that this year. Yeah.
So on that note, let's wrap things up. I do want to just say real quick, next week we have part 1 of a 2-part interview that we recorded a couple weeks ago. Super excited for this one.
Yes.
we sat down with Patrick and James from the Retrospectives podcast, and we talked about video games for over 2 hours. And man, what a great conversation that was.
Oh, it was outstanding. I am really, really looking forward to those episodes.
Yeah, they were an absolute blast to record. We got up at oh my god in the morning.
Yeah.
And they stayed up until oh my god at night because those guys are from Australia and time zones are kind of a bitch. So
hey, made it work.
We made it work. We got a great interview with them. We talked about their origins with gaming. We talked a lot about the current state of gaming. We really didn't follow a formula. We just kind of talked.
Yeah, and it worked.
And it was great. It worked.
Yeah.
So if you want to kind of check out what they do, their tagline on their website is a podcast where we argue about video games, and that's extremely accurate. Swing on by rspodcast.net. Patrick and James have a great show every 2 weeks. They review an older game to see if it stands up to the test of time and is worth your time in 2020. Can't recommend it enough. As for us, I'm Drew. You can find me on Twitter at ScionStorm. Will, how can they find you?
Twitter at Will_Gear.
And of course, WDGRPodcast.com. Whew. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me vent for the past hour.
See ya.